This Lent, we are focusing on our journey with Christ from the mountaintop to the cross. And along this journey, we listen to both Mark and John point out things along the way that are important to us, that we must pay attention to if we are to understand how and why this journey matters. In a way, it's like they are pointing out landmarks for us to help us find our way should we get lost, or if we want to help others to find their way or understand their journey. Last week we heard what can be described in essence as a starting point. Jesus' proclamation that the time is fulfilled. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Repent and believe the good news. It's a good starting point in that it invites us to explore that which it reveals. Kind of like looking through an open doorway that someone is beckoning us towards, so that we might see what is ahead of us before we step through it. This week, Mark points out that if we want to become followers of Christ, if we are willing to accept Jesus' invitation to embrace the good news, stepping through that open doorway before us, then we must deny ourselves, take up our cross, and follow him. For many, this appears to be a daunting and unwelcoming demand, because at first glance it seems to say that if we step through that doorway, if we accept that invitation that is offered, then we're no longer in control. And if we're no longer in control, we need to let go of all those things that we try to control in ourselves, our lives, and in the world around us. Letting go is not easy. Yet that's something we must do. Why? Because we can only hold on to so much. If our arms are filled with all the things we think of as important in this life, we have no room to hold on to what really is. God's grace and love revealed in and through Jesus Christ, who we then follow, so that we might know and experience the depth of that love and the abundance of the grace that we are invited to embrace. One misconception out there is that in accepting God's love and grace in this way means somehow our path becomes easier to follow, or that our load becomes lighter. I wish that were true, but it's not. In fact, over time, some will find that the path they walk is harder and more difficult, and the load they carry becomes more cumbersome. It's tempting to just stop where we are and take a different path, or to put down that which is difficult to carry. What we forget is that we are not on this journey alone, and that the weight of that which we have been given is only a burden if we try to carry it by ourselves. I'm reminded of my sabbatical and a few of the trails that Sharon and I walked to visit waterfalls in Colorado. Just as in following Jesus, the way is made clear. The trails we walked were clearly marked. However, the steps we took along that trail were not always in line with the one who led. This meant that at times the trail was easier for one of us than the other. And in those times when we ran into obstacles we had to overcome, and if we tried to take them on our own, it was often harder than it needed to be. When we asked one another for help, it became so much easier. Likewise, as Deacon Joan reminded us last week, in sharing a heavy burden, the amount of burden we carry on our own becomes lighter. What I guess I'm trying to say is that the cost of accepting Jesus' invitation only becomes a problem if we try to do it all on our own. This is true in other aspects of our lives also. When we do not enlist the help of others on the same journey, either out of our pride, our stubbornness, even our self-determination, we can find ourselves in trouble. We must not be afraid to ask one another for help. Likewise, when we see someone struggling, we as fellow Christians should not let them struggle on their own. But we should offer the help we need, or they need, to overcome the obstacles before them, or to find their way along the pathway Christ has set for them. There's another aspect to this signpost that Mark highlights. To let go of the control we seek in our lives is to place our trust in someone else. In this case, the one who leads, Jesus Christ. When we choose to follow Jesus, we must trust that the journey we are on will get us to where we are supposed to go. Even if that journey feels like we are wandering endlessly, going in circles, or winding to and fro along pathways that seem to go on forever. Anyone who has ever tried to make it to the top of a mountain knows that a straight shot from the base to the peak can be an almost impossible journey. But using a series of switchbacks that go back and forth around the mountain, while not the shortest route, is often the easiest and the safest. Besides, it is often in the journey that we are helped to embrace the joy we experience on its completion. As we journey to the cross with Jesus, let us remember we do not do so alone. Nor is what we endure along the way our burden alone to carry. While at times we may feel lost or on our own, the truth is we are never very far from God's grace and love. Part of a poem we used for meditations throughout the clergy retreat says this best. We are not promised that the blessings we receive will free us from danger, fear, hunger, or thirst, from the scorching of the sun or the fall of the night. But we can know that on this path there will be help. And along this way, we will find rest because we are God's beloved. Amen.
Amen.